Goeiemorgen, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are, it's always a good time to watch some plant to YouTube. My name is Shane, and in today's video, we are going to look at all of the anthurium that have few sinuses. Spoiler alert, they are not only anthurium forgetii and forgetii hybrids, but they're all stunning. But don't take my word for it, let's have a look at all of them. The first one that we are going to look at is my beautiful anthurium dark forgetii. I absolutely love the dark foliage on this plant as well as the minimal veins. It does have two other leaves, but it doesn't look that great because of the recent winter moves. But it does have a new leaf on the way as well. Plant also has two inflows on it, or should I say one inflow and one infructescence. Infructescence essentially just means that the inflow has been successfully pollinated. So as you can see on this one, it does have a green color, and that is one of the first indicators on this plant that the pollination was successful. If you look a little bit closer, you can also see that there is little bumps where the berries are currently forming. This one I have selfed, which means I used pollen that I got from a previous flower on this specific plant and put that pollen on this inflow. I did that for three main reasons. Number one, a lot of people were asking about dark forgetias in the South African market, so I'm excited to bring them this plant. So I did use this plant in a Blue Mag X Dark Forgetii hybrid, and there was quite a number of them that were variegated. You probably won't be able to see it, but this leaf in particular does have some bleeding veins. There's other leaves on this plant previously that had bleeding veins and that showed a little bit of sport variegation. So I think those seedlings actually got it from this pollen parent. I'm hoping that we'll get some variegated seedlings from these ones as well. The other inflow I also pollinated just yesterday, I think, and I've used the crystal black pollen on that one. And later on in the video, you should see the crystal black as well. And I'll share with you a little bit more about why I've decided to use that pollen on this specific plant. So this plant is one of the three anthuriums that is still in soil, and it's literally just because this plant is such a prolific grower. Every time I'm getting ready to pot it up, it produces a new leaf. So it always prevents me from potting this one up. But after I've harvested the berries from these infructescents, I will most definitely repot them and also transfer them to semi-hydro just to make my life a little bit easier. Another interesting thing about these flowers is besides the normal modified leaf that you would see on a anthurium flower, there's also a little modified leaf at the base of the spadix, and I'll put a picture in here so that you can see it a little bit more closely. But it's so unique. I haven't seen it on any of my other flowers that I have. And I've also asked around on the local anthuriums group, and no one has seen this before. But I think seeing that it is on both of these inflows, it probably is something that is going to continue and become a norm for this plant. So, a really cool thing about this plant. But yeah, this is my beautiful dark Forgetii with a few sinus. Next up, we do have the anthurium crystal black. And look at that fusinus. I'm going to put it down because it is quite a heavy plant. But anthurium crystal black is actually known to occasionally throw out some fusinus leaves, but it still caught me by surprise. So during the move, this leaf did emerge, and unfortunately, it lost the tip of the leaf. And because I knew that the leaf was damaged, I didn't pay particular attention to it as much as I would normally do. But as the leaf grew, I eventually decided to look what it actually looks like, and then got super surprised that it has this completely fused sinus. I absolutely love the veining, especially here on top. It reminds me so much of the anthurium chocolate that I see on social media quite a lot. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we don't have that plant yet, but I think this kind of gives me the same type of vibe. So because I really enjoy this fused sinus, I want to experiment with it a little bit more. And that is why I use the pollen of this plant to put on my dark forgetii. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Some of the seeds will emerge with the dark Forgetii sinus, and the texture and the veining of the pollen parent, which is this crystal black. I think it's going to look absolutely amazing. But yeah, this is my surprise crystal black Theosinus leaf. The next plant we're going to look at is also an anthurium Forgetii. And the crispy leaves on this one doesn't do it justice. So I'll put a picture up of what the plant actually looked like before the winter move. But it does have a new leaf on the way, so I think soon we'll be able to cut off all of these not so nice looking leaves and the plant will be restored to somewhat of its former beauty. I actually accidentally bought this plant a couple of months after I bought the dark Forgetii. So the seller sent out a list prior to the sale, and normally they would go in order of that list. And there is a plant that I already wanted, but instead of sending that plant, they send the picture of this plant ahead of that one. So I have already pressed sold on the plant, and the picture of this one came up as opposed to the one that I actually wanted. And by that time it was too late. But I have no regrets because I really, really like this plant as well. This one lives in ambient and it really has no issue with that. This plant is in semi-hydro, it is in all leca. The only problem is the pot that I have it in. It is not a pot that is really conducive for semi-hydro growing. So the reason why I say that is this pot does have a cash pot or a reservoir at the bottom. It is not sufficient for the leca to absorb the water from the bottom and wick it all the way up. So I literally have to water this plant every other day for the leca on top to not dry out completely. But I do plan on changing the pot in the next couple of weeks to a proper self-watering pot so that I can get the full potential out of this plant. Next one that we are going to be looking at is this anthurium Forgetii silver crossed with a dark Forgetii. And this one I got as a seed, and I used my tried and true seed germination method, which is 80% leca and just 20% moss on top for it to germinate. And as soon as the roots reach far enough down in the leca, I remove that moss layer and replaces it with leca, and it continues to grow in semi-hydro from then onwards. This one is also very beautiful. It's probably the most round sinus that we've seen so far, and it has quite a lot of veins compared to all of the other ones. I'll probably get it from the Forgetii silver parent. It also has a new leaf on the way, and I think this one is going to be a little bit bigger than that previous one simply by looking at the veins. As you can see, this one is really floppy, so I'm not going to touch it too much for the fear of damaging it. As you can see from the veining on top, it is quite closed compared to this one where the veins are still quite open. So that is a good indication. Along with the petiole that is a little bit larger than that one. So really looking forward to see what this new leaf is going to bring. This one is also in one of those pots that I mentioned earlier that is not conducive to semi-hydro. I really need to water this plant every second day, which is not ideal for me. So as soon as this leaf hardens off, I will be repotting this one in a proper self-watering pot as well. So really excited about this one. Yeah. So this one is anthurium Forgetii silver crossed with dark Forgetii. Next up is this beautiful anthurium Zara Michele. What in the world is this plant doing with the semi-fused sinus? But I'm here for it. But it actually looks like it's going to continue. So the semi-fused sinus started with this previous leaf, but the new one, which is a beautiful dark purple emergent, it actually also looks like it's going to have a little bit less of a semi-fused sinus. So it looks like that trait is going to continue on this plant. I know we don't know the exact parentage of this hybrid, but kind of looks like there is crystal black in it. It is officially throwing out its first inflow, and it looks like it has another one coming on this latest leaf as well. I know in the past people said that they don't pollinate their first inflow on a plant, but I don't really subscribe to that idea. I know that the yield is going to be a little bit lower than I guess on a more mature inflow, but I am really excited about this one. I have a Mag Zara Michele in my collection, and I'll show a picture of what that plant looks like. I really, really like the texture, I like the color, I like everything about that plant, and I really want to try and recreate it. My Magnificum is going to produce pollen at the same time as the thing. This one is going to have stigmatic fluid. So I'm going to try and pollinate this plant with my Magnificum, and hopefully I get something similar to the Mag cross Zara Michele that I have in my collection. So I'm really excited about that cross as well. But if that one doesn't fail, there's always the next one on the way. Again, really surprised with this one that has a semi-fused sinus, but absolutely love it. Next up is the anthurium red spider. So not the typical anthurium red spider that I normally see on Instagram. And I think that's why I didn't really appreciate the plant as much. But I think with every new leaf and the sizing up that it does, I am starting to like it more and more. I would still love to have a actual red spider with a really red sinus. I can't wait for this one to mature even more to see exactly what it's going to look like. This one is also in the pot that is not suited for semi-hydro. So in the next couple of weeks, once this one is hardened off, I will probably repot this one as well. And this previous leaf is probably a good indication of the problems that I'm experiencing with this pot. And here you can see there is some yellowing and some browning at the edge of this leaf. And that is an indication that the watering is not as consistent as what the plant would appreciate. So on the petiole of the second last leaf, it is producing its first very dainty flower. I don't really have any plans with it. It looks very, very underdeveloped, as well as the plant doesn't look quite mature. So I would definitely not want to breed with this one in the near future. But I will take the pollen if it does produce the pollen and see if there's something else that I can pollinate it with. Next up is the anthurium Forgetii white stripe. The thing that makes this plant so unique is that it has a pink reddish sinus. I've only had this plant for a couple of weeks at this point in time, and this is the very first leaf in my care. I think it's quite a beautiful plant, and I think it's going to grow up to be really, really stunning. So I can't wait to see how this one will mature. Next up, we have Anthurium Forgetii X. So this one I bought as just a Forgetii, but clearly seeing that it is quite a daggery long shape and it has not a complete fused sinus, I do think that this is a hybrid of some sort. I wouldn't know what the pollen parent is, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the daggery shape, the elongated leaf that it has, as well as the veins of this plant. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Similar to the previous one, I haven't had this one for a very long time, but this one is the first leaf in my care, and I think it is quite a size up from the previous leaves that it had. Absolutely love this one. I cannot wait to see what this one produces in the future and possibly hybridize this one. I think it's going to be a great pollen parent or even a mother plant. I think this plant is going to be an amazing parent plant in the future. Next up, we have the Anthurium Forgetii crossed with Hofmanii. This is such a good representation of both of the parents. I got the fused sinus or semi-fused sinus on this one from the Anthurium Forgetii, and then it has this beautiful veining that it probably gets from the Anthurium Hofmanii. I think this is probably one of my favorite plants in my entire collection. It does have a new leaf on the way, and it also has an even more fused sinus on this specific leaf. So perhaps it's one of those plants that with every leaf, the sinus will fuse even more. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to see this one. Look at this beautiful dark maroon color of this new emergent. I think it's absolutely stunning. It also has a new inflow. It's not the first one. I think it's the second one. I think I broke off the first one accidentally. The band that I had in the grow tent toppled over onto this plant and it broke off the first inflow that it had, as well as bended this leaf, but it's still keeping on. I think the edge of this pot is really helping it to stabilize. and helps to get the nutrients to the specific leaf. So these two new leaves look in pristine condition, but the rest of them, they are really old. They were also damaged during the winter move. I don't really mind ugly looking leaves on my plants at all until that one day where I just take out the scissors and snap them off. But for now, they stay on and I just enjoy the beautiful new leaves that they do produce. This is another one of those plants that needs to be repotted in an actual self-watering plant. So as soon as this leaf hardens up, I will do a repotting of this plant into a proper self-watering plant. This plant I bought as a Magnificum cross with Ace of Spades, but for some other reason it has a complete new sinus. This is the new leaf on the plant. I actually have two of them in front of me. This came from the exact same plant. This is the mother plant. It lives in ambient and it didn't really do well during the move, but it has put out this new leaf. But because I made this rookie error and tried to help the plant out of a sheath, I actually did end up breaking or damaging the tip of the leaf. But at least it is growing, and I think the next leaf should be quite promising. I decided to put the pup in the grow tent and see how this one goes in there. As you can see, it is really growing up now. I am really liking this new leaf. It is in a self-watering pot that I like to put my acacias in. I don't think it's the right pot to use for my anthurium. So as soon as this leaf also hardens up, I'll probably also do a repotting in the self-watering pots that I like the anthurium to live in. Next up, we have this anthurium Nigrolaminum crossed with a Forgetii. So it got the texture from the mother plant, and then it got, of course, the fused sinus from the pollen parent. And actually really interesting, if you look at the back of the leaf, the sinus is actually overlapping at the back, which is quite cool. This plant I've only had in the collection for a couple of weeks. It hasn't produced a new leaf yet, but I do see that the growth point is thickening up, so I should be expecting a new leaf incoming very soon. Instead, it did produce a flower. But if I look at the roots, there is really nothing wrong with it. It is growing absolutely amazing. So just a matter of time, I think. But yeah, absolutely love this fused sinus on this one. And it really brings in a little bit of a different texture in this plant loving house compared to all of the other velvety ones. They are really, really nice plant. Next up is this Anthurium Forgetii cross Clarinervium. So also got the best characteristic from both of its parents, so the fused sinus from the Anthurium Forgetii and absolutely beautiful veining from the Anthurium Clarinervium. This plant also lives in ambient, so it's taking a little bit longer to adapt to its new environment, but it has thrown out this new leaf, so I think it is on its way to some good things. Like I said in a previous video, I absolutely love Clarinervium hybrids. I'm really excited to see how the veining of this one is going to evolve on the next couple of leaves. Next up, we have the Anthurium Green Soul, and this is a Anthurium Besseae F cross with a Forgetii hybrid. So I did get the semi-fused sinus from the Anthurium Forgetii, and then the shape in the veins, of course, from the Besseae F. The emergent on this one is a really bright red. It is such a beautiful emergent. The hardened off leaf is quite dark, and I absolutely love these roughly edges that is on the top of the sinus. It is such a beautiful plant, and it has the elongated tip or the tail that the Anthurium Forgetii is also quite known for. So I think this is going to be a really, really stunning hybrid. I cannot wait to grow this one to maturity. So last but certainly not least is the Anthurium CrystalMag. And I actually had to get up and stand to show you this one because it's really taken over the entire screen. This is the last leaf that it has. Absolutely beautiful, really dark color with a lot of green veins. This, however, is the newest leaf that I want to show you. And for the first time, it has a semi-fused sinus. Like, what? probably coming, of course, from the Crystallinum parentage. But really interesting. I wasn't expecting that at all, seeing that all of the other leaves never had it. But I guess there's always a first time. It is still very new, and this peduncle is kind of in its way, so I'm hoping that it won't damage the leaf as it is going to be hardening off in the next couple of weeks. As you can see, this plant also has two inflows, infrotescence actually, and then an inflow. This one is almost done producing its berries, and probably in the next couple of days, I should be able to harvest this. So really exciting. This is actually an unknown hybrid. I am pretty convinced that I used the Delta Force pollen for this one. I actually lost the tag, and there was two other plants that was also in flower at the same time that could have been the parent for this one. So this one I'm probably going to grow out before I sell it on my website, just to see exactly what the parentage is of this hybrid, and then I will eventually sell them. I wasn't planning on pollinating this, seeing that I just harvested the seeds off of a previous infrotescence. This one is kind of a little bit of an experiment. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I actually don't have much hope for it. But if something does come from it, I'll be really happy about that. That one I crossed with one of my favorite plants. It is Anthurium Magnificum crossed with Subsignatum. I'll put a picture of the plant somewhere here where I can find some space, and you would see that it actually looks quite interesting. I think with the round shape of this plant and the wide sinus and the elongated nature of that plant, I think it will be quite a nice hybrid. But if it's not successful, I will also be okay. It's not something that I've really planned. But when I looked at the two plants, I thought these two actually might look quite good together. But that was, of course, before I saw that this one had a few sinus. So it would be interesting to see whether that one actually really has a wide sinus, or whether it would kind of default to the semi-closed sinus. So if it is successful, that is going to be really interesting. So this is one of the three plants that is still in soil, and this is exactly how I should be using this specific pot. Not for semi-hydro, more for a soil type of substrate. So I would water as I normally would, and all of the excess water would gather in this little reservoir at the bottom. It does not harm the plant at all because it's at the bottom and there is no root in that reservoir that could potentially cause root rot on this plant. This is currently one of my favorite plants in my collection, also one of the biggest ones. And I don't know if you're able to see, it is constantly flowering. So even with these two inflows on here, it's already starting to work on the next one. This plant is not showing any type of stress because of the pollination, and it could potentially be because it is in such good conditions growing the grow tent with good light, good humidity, a good self-watering pot, and good nutrients that it gets every week. But yeah, really love this plant. Anthurium CrystalMag with its first semi-fused sinus. And that is that. I really hope that you enjoyed looking at all of the anthurium in my collection that have some sort of fused sinus. I actually really enjoyed this type of video where I take one characteristic or one plant species and look at all of the hybrids and the species that I have in my collection. I actually think that that is something that I will do going forward. In the month of October, I'm going to do a Pond 101 series. So every week in October, I'm going to give you tips and tricks that I've learned over the years using pon. So you can expect how I transfer plants from soil to pon, my nutrient solution, we will look at my watering schedule, and of course we will look at some beautiful plants. I really hope that I see you in my next video. Until then, have a lekker rest of your day. Bye bye!